Hi everybody, this is Unit 2, Lesson 3, The American Revolution. You can go ahead and fill out page 6 of your notebook for the title Unit 2, Lesson 3, The American Revolution. On the left-hand side of your notebook, you're going to write Objective, Stamp Act, Boston Tea Party, the First Continental Congress, Minutemen, and then differences among the colonists, patriots, and loyalists. Use the entire page and give yourself space in between each one of these items, as you will be writing down multiple things. The objective for today is that you will be able to evaluate the causes of the Revolutionary War by taking notes and evaluating which individuals may be a patriot or a loyalist. And the essential question for today are what differences existed amongst Americans concerning the separation from Great Britain. Okay, so the beginning of the American Revolution, we're going to talk about what exactly triggered the colonists to want to separate from England. We've already talked about where the ideas came from, the philosophers that gave them the ideas to separate. You've went ahead and talked about the French and Indian War and how that was kind of the turning point that started to lead us down this road. And now we're going to talk about this exact specific things that caused us to break up with Great Britain. Whoops, sorry. So the first measurable event was the Stamp Act of 1765. And the Stamp Act was kind of what it sounded like. It was a little paper stamp that you had to place on all paper legal documents. So if you wanted a newspaper, or if you had a birth certificate, or whatever paper document you had that you wanted, you had to pay extra money for a stamp to put on it. And that was a tax. And the reason why they did this is because they were in debt. Great Britain was in debt after the French and Indian War, and they needed help pay for that war. And part of that paying back was the colonists. Okay, sorry, my phone was ringing. All right. So this is what the stamp looked like. This is an actual copy of it. And this is what they would place on the documents. The second memorable event was the Boston Tea Party, and this happened in 1773. Many of you probably have heard of the Boston Tea Party, but it happened at night. A group of essentially rebels, Sam Adams was one of them that led them, and they were part of this group called the Sons of Liberty. And they were a group of rebels that were trying to go against the British government. They supported the independence. And so they boarded these ships in the middle of the night and threw 342 chests of tea overboard. And this was a big deal. One, it was very symbolic of how they felt about Great Britain, but also it was expensive. Tea was not cheap, and to throw that much tea overboard and ruin that much tea was expensive and a very costly endeavor. The importance of this is because the Sons of Liberty and Sam Adams did this, Great Britain went ahead and passed a series of coercive acts in 1774 that you guys are going to read about today. And these were essentially additional tax, additional acts that really pushed the colonists in Great Britain further and further apart. So if you think about it like the relationship, like the beginning of it, the beginning of the falling apart, and then just the addition of like doing more and more bad things to one another. And this is a reproduction of the Boston Tea Party and them throwing the tea into the water. And obviously this is just reproduction because it's a painting and it was very bright and colorful and not in the middle of the night. So some more events that took place that caused us to go into the revolution. First, we had the First Continental Congress. And this is where the first time that the colonists ever all got together to try to plan and go against Great Britain. Everybody sent representatives to the First Continental Congress with the exception of Georgia. And you're going to learn in a little bit that a lot of the southern colonies still had a lot of support for England. The Next event was the Minutemen, and the Minutemen was the first militia that was organized by the colonists. And they were called Minutemen because they could essentially be ready to go at a minute's notice. So they kept a gun by the door. They had a special alert system to alert them if they needed to get ready, and they could literally run out the door and be ready to fight in a minute's notice. And they started the first two battles of the Revolution, Lexington and Concord, and these happened in 1775, and it was the very first conflict between Great Britain and the colonists. So there were some differences amongst the colonists, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about, and this was the essential question, and this is what you're going to work more on with your assignment for today. So first you had the neutrals. The neutrals were the colonists who just didn't want to be involved. They're like, leave me alone. I don't care what side you're on. I'm just doing my own thing. We had the Patriots, called the Whigs. This is not the football team. Tom Brady had nothing to do with this. And the Patriots were referred to as the rebels. So our Minutemen, Sam Adams, they all would have been patriots. They were the ones that wanted to rebel against Great Britain. They were the ones that really wanted their independence. They did not want to be a part of Great Britain anymore. Then you had the Loyalists, and these were the Tories. About 1/3, one-third of the colonists did remain loyal to England. These were typically some wealthy merchants who probably benefited from the trade with England, some farmers and craftsmen. Again, probably people that benefited mostly from trade with England that supported their relationship with them. They tended to live mostly in the middle and southern colonies. This is why we see a lot of our founding fathers that lived more in New England and some of the middle colonies. It was actually quite hard to be a loyalist. They were known to be tarred and feathered, which is a recreation of what you see here. Pouring tar on them and then feathering them is what a lot of the patriots would do to the loyalists. And that is it for today. You are going to want this information specifically for the assignment that you are going to do, where you are going to have to identify a variety of individuals and whether or not they were a patriot, a neutral, or a loyalist. All right.